Welcome to my Cactus live stream, Cactus Care live stream, sowing out. I have also sown out a bunch of vegetables recently. And apart from that, cactus cleaning is what we're doing today, checking seedlings, cactus seedlings that we have sown out on the stream, on the channel, somewhere we have done something. And now it's time to go through with them again, have opened them up, look into the containers to see if there are any problems. Then I brought some that I took out of the seed, out of the bag, out of the plastic bag. And this is to, I brought them here to show you a bunch of things. They have been dehydrating very fast. Yesterday I kind of missed a second spraying. I sprayed them in the morning, but indoors the temperatures are so high that you need to spray more often. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Great to have you here. I just got started a little bit late. Kami and Mika, they wanted something. I spent time outside with the cat standing there beside the mouse hole for like 15 minutes. So yeah, that's why I'm a little bit late, but now I'm here. And yeah, this time I brought a bunch of stuff for the stream. Will be interesting. So yeah, thanks for being here. So let me get started maybe. I brought these containers here from the plant lamp. These are under the plant lamp, and this is a good example. I wanted to show you how the moss that had infested this kind of container, moss and algae, how that stuff has changed the soil. Look at this, the top level of the soil. This is very bad for seedlings. So this just happened within maybe 3 weeks. We had that. These are freshly sown out cactus seedlings. This isn't something that was in the soil for a very long time. This is just fresh from the ones that we have sown out on the stream. And yeah, this whole thing, this top layer here, this moss top layer, it looks a little bit like plastic. It gets so firm, it kind of forms one top layer that prevents water from sinking in. And yeah, that's why I go against it so hard very often. Like when I talk about this stuff, within short time, this can happen. And right now, I think we need to transplant them. We probably can't leave them in that medium. I always try to do the stuff when I don't have to absolutely do it, I don't. But in this case, I think we have to. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the stream. Great to have you. Thank you. So these must probably be transplanted into the sowing soil now. The sowing soil would be a little bit better, a little bit more resistant against that kind of green stuff that just you probably have these spores or whatever it is, or seeds. You have them in the soil already. In this case, this wasn't sowing soil. This was some sort of a graveyard soil, because it is so resistant to being overgrown. And that's why I wanted to experiment with it. It's great for large plants, but in this case, the young seedlings, they are so sensitive, and this stuff can really hurt them. So at some point, we will transplant them. And also, this thing is dry. It's bone dry. That is something that I really want to stress. You have something like this. It looks like a swamp. It looks like the swamps of Dagobah, and then it's completely dry below. And you sometimes don't even notice it, because you see that thing and you think it's so green, there must be something, there must be humidity in it, but it just took all the humidity for itself, and the seedlings don't get a lot of it. So yeah, this needs to be done. They need to be watered, transplanted. Maybe we're doing it today, but I haven't brought soil with me. Okay, so here, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. See how dry the soil is? I had sprayed them yesterday, and that is how much humidity has gone lost since yesterday. Sometimes spraying them once a day isn't enough, and in this case, I need to spray them more often. I just refilled the water sprayer, so I don't get into a situation where, you know, you see that the thing is empty and you want to fill it up, but you don't get to it that day. Then you have lost one day, and the seedlings are looking like this in a super dry soil. They need a lot of water in the beginning, and when they are out of the bag, you're basically spraying them all the time, and that is why I try not to take them out so early. Same thing here, and this was also moss on the here on the left and here, and it didn't really take it well that the soil has been dried, and yeah, but everything bone dry. This is not good. These are too small to be that dry, and it just happened so fast. So that is why I often say, if you are using a mineral soil like pumice, a lot of people recommend pumice because it is great. It is one of the best cactus medias that are available. But once you have a problem, any kind of problem, and you have to take them out, then you have it in this super fast draining soil mix medium, and the water just runs through it, and you can't just you often get into a situation where you cannot spray fast enough. It just disappears so fast, and that is why young seedlings sowing soil is a bit safer, just to avoid that. If it goes great, if they stay in the closed container and everything is great, then the pumice will work. But any problem, then you have them in a very, very fast draining soil. It will be hard, it will be busy. Let me say it like this. Okay, so yeah, and these are too small. Need to spray them. So let me just look for the water sprayer that I brought, just to water them right now. And I try to mist them carefully. I want to try getting the top layer of the soil a little bit flexible again. Right now, they're so dry that everything turns into a brick, and that is what they often say, that is bad for the seedlings. In this case, not all soil reacts the same when it dries out and you water it again. If this soil can take in the water again, like stay in a state where it manages to dry out and still take in water later, then this will not be a problem. But some soil mixes, some soils, they dry out once and you have a problem getting it into any kind of flexibility again. It will just be rock solid, and that is what you need to look for with seedlings. It can still work, they can still survive even when the medium is bone dry. You know, they grow on rocks sometimes, but it is better to have it not so hard for the seedlings and also when the soil dries out that much, it just means that they are not getting enough water. It's also a sign that you should have probably watered more. Okay, so I want to go through the containers, and one thing that I noticed, I have 2 little chili plants that have come up from the seeds that I bought. So that is a success. I haven't really had much experience sowing out chili, but I want to do more of that vegetable stuff. It's just want to plant a few trees here and there, a few shrubs. Want to do something where also the garden kind of is valued up a little bit just by having nice plants for the animals of the forest and everything, you know, like a bunch of, I don't know, stuff that the bees like, that the natural, like the endemic bees here, that they like. I don't have honeybees, but I have a lot of wild bee species that are living on the land, that kind of stuff. And I just want to do a little bit more to just leave a place here that is full of life and healthy. So yeah, that's why I'm growing so much other stuff right now. It will not become the main focus of the channel, but I want to do more of that stuff. The older I get, you know, you at some point you just realize that life is short And a tree, when it grows, it takes, I don't know, 20 years or so, 10, 20 years. At some point, I want to be able to see the fruit of the stuff that I planted. I planted a bunch of trees, and some of them have taken, but I feel like I can do a little bit more, you know. So yeah, that's why I want to sow out a lot of other stuff in the next years to come. So we will try and experiment with different types of seeds that need treatment. We will try to do it just to experiment, and every now and then in between the cactus stuff that's keeping me busy. So, okay. First container here, and these are very young, but they look healthy. The color isn't really green, but this is sometimes some seedlings can start off like this. Like that, it's not a. If you look at them now, it doesn't look like a healthy green, but it could just be that they are so young that they haven't really produced a lot of chlorophyll yet. But they could also be, you know, genetically variegated. Let me look at the label. Born to be wild sister. Yeah, that is a Lobivia ferox hybrid. And I'm not sure. We'll see if they are variegated or not. Probably not. If you ask me, just gut feeling, I don't think they are. But we'll see. So, and here's a little grass. It's probably barely visible. But I want to nip it at the bud, how they say, you know. I want to remove that thing before it gets big, before it has a huge root system. The bigger the grass, the more difficult it gets to pull that thing out without uprooting the whole pot. They just start to root very fast, all kinds of weeds, and then they take the seedlings with them when you rip them out, and I don't want to have that. So everything that comes up, I will remove very early. And apart from that, these look good. Just not large. They're too small a little. It depends on the age. I should have put the time on it when we have sown them out. That's what we will do in the future. So we can just look at the seedlings and decide if the growth rate is normal for that time or not. Right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure when these were sown out. Okay, next one. And they look good, but one of them is lying on the side. The good news is you can see there's still a root system attached to it, firmly attached to it. It means that the seedling didn't fall over because the fungus gnats had eaten the root. It's still there. So this looks more like I have handled this thing a little bit harshly, and by pressing on the side, you can sometimes throw over the seedlings. So I need to reposition that, because once you have a seedling lying there, it's not really doing great. They could theoretically make it, and they sometimes do, but if a seedling is lying on the side, please, for all that's good, help him up. So yeah, so I will bring this thing back to the original position, maybe pressing it a little bit more firmly into the soil to prevent that from happening again. It's also possible that the soil at this part in the pot had, you know, sometimes you have one big piece of material that is lying beside below the seedling, and when something moves, then there's suddenly a big hole, and that's how this felt here. So now I'm giving it a little bit more stability, just to have it solidly connected to the soil, because they need that nutrient, they need all the humidity. The roots can dry out so fast. They could even dry out in a closed bag. So yeah, now everything's tidy again. Looks a lot better. And I can close that up again. These are seedlings from one of my own hybrids, but just a number. I can't tell you what it is. It's seeds from 2024. So viability after 1 year, good. In the future, I will often discuss the age of the seed, so we can show what difference it makes when you have older seeds. And you can really, sometimes they stay viable for 10 years, but there are some where you can really see that over the time span of maybe 5 years, the viability consistently drops. Okay, here's Hunkes Roro. Tiny seedlings. They are so small. They don't look like they would develop into healthy plants at some point. I'm very skeptical about the size of the seedlings here, because I have often seen seedlings that aren't fully developed due to genetic problems, and I just see these often with Hunkes Roro in the last 2 months. The seedlings that reliably came up to be variegated, potentially variegated, too small. They came from Hunkes Roro, and the flower is so beautiful. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous flower. Maybe we can improve the genetic health of that thing. It will show when you have a lot of crosses that turn out like this, and you have one that looks fairly normal, that looks nice and healthy, then maybe that would be a good one to like that we could move forward with. But for now, I will grow them. I will give them a chance. Sometimes they start tiny and they just grow over the course of 2 years. Who knows? But I'm skeptical. I see that some of the seedlings here have already kind of expired. And that is a sign often that there's already a problem, that there's already something that shows that the seedlings can produce chlorophyll. A big thing. That is for me, this is a deal breaker, because they would have to be grafted. If it's a full albino, you have to graft it to keep it around, to keep it alive. They just need to produce chlorophyll. Otherwise, you could fertilize and fertilize and fertilize, but they would not be able to survive long term. And yeah, this is what you see then. You see the tiny seedlings disappearing, getting even tinier until they are suddenly gone. And I see some of that in here. Doesn't mean that all the seedlings will be like that. It just means this is one of the candidates where I'm a little bit more skeptical. Okay, but I will give it a chance. I will leave them there. That the flower is so nice that I want to give it a chance. It's not that I want to talk bad about that beautiful hybrid. Every time I posted, yesterday I posted a photo of it, and it just looked like a painting. Really beautiful, and there must be something that we can do there. Okay, so this one looks great. I like that. Healthy seedlings in center, not too deep. I mean, it's a little too deep, but it's okay. At some point, you also need to consider that the seedlings fall out of the pot when you turn it. Apart from that, some of them are behind, some of them are delayed. Some small ones at the lower side. Could mean that there is mutations, that there are mutations in this hybrid cross. And yeah, the one look at the parents points into that direction too. This is a columnar hybrid cross, columnar mother and colorful father. And that's just the type of combination that sometimes brings out a little bit of abnormal growth. I'm looking forward to these. I'm looking forward to a lot of the stuff that we're growing here. For now, everything great. I will close that up again. The big ones are big enough to be taken out of this thing, out of the bag. But it's just that there are some of the smaller ones aren't. And the smaller ones could be the ones that have the strongest mutations in regards to the type of body that will come from them, that they will develop into. So if I would take them out now, I would probably not be able to get the tiniest ones also to adulthood, and that's why I leave them in a little longer. Okay, these look great, but there is moss. It is okay for now. You see, there's still space between the seedlings, but at some point that thing will go. Seedlings look great though. Really healthy looking seedlings. We'll see how this will develop in the next years. It seems to be a Lobivia winteriana cross. So these could be flowering within 2 years. Sown out in winter 2025, 2027, maybe sooner even. If we treat them right, we'll see. Okay, so this is washed pumice, a container where it's going good. This didn't have any kind of fungus gnat problems. So they are growing without any kind of injury. And I can leave them in humidity, in the high humidity. Because otherwise this would also be, I would probably transplant them into sowing soil again. At the time when I did this, I was out of sowing soil, so I took what I had, and that was the washed pumice. And washed pumice is great, but it's a little bit too fast draining for this tiny size of seedling. If you want to use it in a mineral mix, you need to make some changes, additions, stuff like perlite and expanded clay, a broken expanded clay. Shouldn't be so round. You need to give it a little bit structure. Maybe a little bit of sowing soil also mixed in, that kind of stuff, just to give it stability and retain the water a little longer. Water is a big thing. It's one of the main themes of the channel. In so many situations, when a problem happens with a cactus, it has to do with water. It already starts with the seedlings that can expire if you forget to water them one day. Or that can expire if you water them every day, all the time. You always have to find the right water management. And yeah, and this thing really expands into every subject. It expands into flowering. When they need a lot of water to flower, so you need to make it available in early spring or maybe around the flower time, that they have that energy at that time. That all that substance that they use up in summer, that needs to come from somewhere. You need to make it available, and so many different ways to grow cacti, different kind of soil mixes that are out there, and they can all work. All it takes is to adapt the water management, to have the right water management. So yeah, in my opinion, one of the core things that you need to get under control is the water thing. How much water they need, when they are getting smaller and smaller, because there's so much conflicting information on the internet. People sometimes see seedlings and they are not sure if they are overwatering or underwatering, that kind of stuff. And that happened to me a lot in the beginning. I was having the seedlings there indoors, sunny spot, and they were disappearing. And I thought, I just saw mold, like you see, when a seedling dries out at some point, it will expire and decay. And a lot of people aren't sure if what they are seeing is just a symptom, for example, of not giving enough water. Because at some point the seedlings won't make it, and then you will have something that looks like a fungal infection, or that could, someone can look at it and will say you have watered too much. You really need to, in the beginning, I had more problems not watering enough than watering too much for cactus seedlings when growing from seeds. Later on, when you have a large plant, things change. They just don't need that much water anymore to just survive. It's just in the very first 2 months, 2 to 6 months maybe, they need a lot of water. So yeah. Okay. They look okay, but I don't like the soil. I look at the soil and it feels like it's used up. And you can have that. There's moss, and I already removed it, and it keeps coming back. So this is one of the candidates that I would probably transplant or take out of the bag. But again, the more you take out, the more you have to spray. So be wise when it's about work that you have to long-term invest every day. Okay. And I'm looking at the ones that we just sprayed. We sprayed them, I don't know when, 15 minutes ago. A large part of the water is already gone. Like the soil is still a little bit wet, but you can see that it's already drying again. When it has been drying out so much, it takes a while to really saturate the medium again. And you might have to spray 3-4 times, just always waiting to see how the soil changes, how the consistency of the soil changes. It's easier to not let the soil dry out completely, or let's say it's safer. Okay, I hate what I see. There's a seedling that's lying. This makes me think fungus gnat. Also, it definitely has a root system still. It's connected to the soil. But I really feel like it looks a little bit, I don't know, I can't describe it. Like someone tried to bite him. So yeah, and the other ones are looking okay. But that one seedling kind of shows me that, I don't know, it could mean there's a presence of fungus gnats in this thing. Just because you after a certain time you notice how the seedlings look when they first suffer, you know, when they are first in the very beginning, when they are first attacked by them, they form this larvae that just keeps eating cactus seedling roots. And that's how they sometimes look, like that one seedling that I had there. Okay. This looks variegated, maybe. I'm not sure. There are some that are green, in between. Green seedlings and a lot of yellowish, whitish even. Tells me variegation. Tells me Humpus Roro. What a surprise, you know? But like I said, there's some green seedlings in between. Those will probably be able to produce chlorophyll. And that could be a decent way to take the flower that is awesome and maybe improve it genetically, depending on what kind of a father we have, you know, because they could have the worst flower ever. That remains to be seen. Just because the mother has a beautiful flower, or just because the father has a beautiful flower, doesn't mean these will have so as well. So yeah, there's grass here that I want to take out, just a little piece of grass here, just tiny, but better to do it now than wait for it to become a problem. Yeah, apart from that, here's a seedling where I feel like it has not made it. It has gone to the other side. It is just in contact with its ancestors. So yeah, this one is already dead. No chance for that one. And there are a few more where I also feel like they can follow, and it's simply because they might not be able to produce chlorophyll. Variegation, it's a spectrum. You know, you can have it from 100% variegated albino to being able to produce a little chlorophyll, and then they will have a little bit of green every now and then, a little bit of yellow. You know, you have them in all kind of percentages. So we'll see where this goes. I like Humpus Roro. I would love to do something with it, but I'm not starting to graft these little completely white seedlings. They have no place in my collection. Because also then they are probably more sun sensitive, that whole thing, and I'm not opening that can of worms. Okay, this is very young, just came up, apparently. We will have to look when this was sown out. Can't be too long. Altena, I had discussed these recently. Yeah, and there are not many seedlings. Could be this was a little bit older seeds. That's the kind of viability that you get from older seeds. And you have seedlings that are just not fully healthy, like with that other hybrid that I just shown you, you know? So we'll see. Maybe we will get a few seedlings here and there that make it. If you think about it, you only need one. Sometimes one is exactly enough. Okay. Yeah, these are looking good. I like it. I like what I see. Soil is okay. Humidity not too much. Not too. It's a little bit. Could be maybe a little bit drier to be on the safe side to avoid fungus gnat, larvae. They just love the humidity, and the less they have, the better. But the seedlings need humidity too, so you will have to find that sweet spot that doesn't allow the fungus gnats to survive, but the seedlings. And it's difficult in a closed bag, in a plastic bag, you know. Okay, but they look great. Just hope it stays like this. When you have a full container full of healthy seedlings, that's a great feeling. And that is exactly the point when you need to be careful. Because that's when you often lose seedlings. Then it starts, you know, you have that one seedling here and there that's suddenly gone. And before you know it, you have 3. And then long term, you lose 2 more, sometimes all. It's just, that is how it sometimes happens. So be aware of it when it happens. Looking good. Too much work for me to repot. Looks already spiny. The spines aren't really tough yet. You can touch them. They're like a little bit like hair now. But this is going to be a spiny plant later on. I sometimes, you know, when I see a plant that I put aside for repotting, and then I think about the pain that it will be to repot them, just because it's a super spiny species, then you lose or you look more towards breeding spineless cacti. That gets more that sounds better every day when you know how it feels to repot very spiny cacti all the time. Okay, so here, water management. Hey, how long do you leave them in the bags? It really differs from container to container and whether if we have problems or not. These here I already took out, and that was after roughly 2 months. 1 to 2 months I took these out, and that is basically the earliest that I would take them out. And the most of the ones that I took out, I would have left in a little longer if I had the chance. I usually take them out when there's problems with fungus gnats or where I feel like they just need to be out of humidity, or they will slowly disappear. Fungal infections, you know, sometimes you see that the soil doesn't look good. Then it can be good to let them dry out. Overall, 3-4 months is a good time. Some people leave them in even longer. If you have no problem, if everything goes right, then it's okay to leave them in the bag, you know. In the beginning, they need a lot of humidity. And after a certain point, maybe after 6 months, then you need to be a little bit more careful that you do not get root rot all the time. Because the bigger they get, the more drainage they need. So yeah, at that point, I often try to move them into a different medium, repot them, single them out. And yeah, but the bags save you a lot of work. you really need to think about everything that you take out of the bag is something that you need to spray a few times a day sometimes. And like I said, yesterday I sprayed them once and forgot to spray them twice, and they are already super dry. Having them in the bag is often safer. If you do not know how to slowly adapt them, then it may be better to leave them in a little longer, unless there's good reason. Like if there's a problem, fungus gnat, you sometimes can't ride it out. You sometimes can't say, okay, they would stay in a month longer in this thing, because by that time the fungus gnats would have taken the other seedlings too. So yeah, at that point you need to decide what's the safest thing to, the lesser of the two evils. So then you rather take them out. Okay, yeah, this one here, this was a container where the water management wasn't right. This just looks like that. You have one seedling in the middle and a weak one. It looked like it had drought. Like there wasn't enough water when the germination was induced, then it came up, but it didn't have enough water to grow healthily. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Always happy to answer this kind of stuff. So yeah, I put in a little bit more water because I feel like we might have gotten more seedlings in this container if the water management would have been better. This just looks like I might have had the wrong amount of water when inducing the germination. It's a fine line sometimes. Sometimes you can have too much water, and I can only explain it in a way that they just need exactly the sweet spot in between the extremes, because in nature they wouldn't survive either of these, too much or too little. In nature they would, if it rains all the time, they don't have a chance, and if it's too dry, thousands of seedlings just shrivel up in nature. There's nobody that waters them, so you need like 10,000 seedlings in nature for a wild plant, for a large one that then manages to flower again. Okay, yeah, these are looking good. A little bit too deep. I don't like that they are too deep. It's shading. You're providing shade. That can make sense if you live in a super hot country that just has maybe 40 degrees Celsius, something like Australia, then that little bit of shade by having them a little bit deeper might even be good. But over here, I try to prevent it. We have so much rain, and then you have them shaded, and it's raining and raining. At some point, it's good to have them a little bit higher. It also helps with giving them enough oxygen. Having oxygen around the roots of the seedlings at the very base and all. Okay. So this is a container where I also had problems with the water management, and I can show you how I knew. So these are the seedlings, and basically on the first look it looks good, but in center here you can see that these are a little bit differently colored. They had dehydrated at that point. You had seen that they have gotten smaller, shriveled a little, changing color, a little bit more reddish than the others. And yeah, that was because there wasn't enough water in this thing. There was water somehow for the seedlings probably from the bag, because the water drips down from the sides of the bag, but probably not into the center. So I filled up a little water here, and now it looks better. Seedlings still haven't fully recovered. They look better again, but we might still lose some of them. We'll see. They had a disadvantage compared to the other seedlings, and they are also, at some point, they will be competing for space, for light, for nutrients. Maybe not in the very beginning, because cactus seedlings don't need a lot, and they often like to be surrounded by other seedlings. It gives them that little bit of extra structure and protection. But later on, of course, they will compete. They are in a pot. at some point the space will run out, and you might lose these first. So if you don't want that to happen, you need to treat them extra good, extra nice and friendly. So yeah, these look good. Okay. Spination looks really interesting. I'm not sure if it shows in the stream, but this is really interesting. And smaller ones, so there's delayed growth in one hybrid cross. And I suspect this is a sister of the one that we had discussed earlier, where I also said that some of them grow completely differently than the others. Points towards it being monstrous growth or maybe crested growth. We will see. They are just too young. In the very first 6 months, the seedlings often don't even show that they are mutated yet. That are traits that need a little bit longer to show. Maybe after the first 6 months, you see more and more of them. So yeah, in the beginning, don't sort out too early. When you are growing like 1,000 seedlings from seeds, in the first months, mutated seedlings often don't show it. So you would sort them out, because you think this is a normal seedling, but it's weird. It takes a while sometimes. Okay, these here also genetically unhealthy. Genetically unhealthy or poor, like too old seeds. This is from a Hilde Winterer hybrid called EOS. And in this case, it had been crossed with an Echinopsis. So this is an intergeneric hybrid between two completely different types of cacti. And that explains why the seedlings don't look so healthy. It could also be that the seeds are a little bit older, but for now, I suspect this is genetic health due to a wide cross. That is how it's called, a wide cross between two widely distant genera. So yeah, but it could be interesting. If one seedling makes it, one is green, one or two, the others look like I wouldn't want to know them if I saw them on the street. But yeah, apart from that, maybe we can get one of them to flower. Maybe we can save one. That would be enough. It doesn't mean that this is it makes sense to grow these, because you always have to keep in mind genetic health, but who knows? Maybe that green seedling is actually healthy. It doesn't have to mean that everything that comes from that isn't really useful, So this is washed pumice and a sunflower seed that came up. I need to put this aside to take it out, because it's starting to root. At some point the roots become a problem. Somehow the sunflower seeds for the birds have spilled into the medium. So now every now and then I see a sunflower seed come up. So this is the same. This was the one we had. I saw that we had a sister from the same cross, but this is the same container that we just had. Next one. Okay. Maybe 10 more. And then we're doing the seed cleaning, because I also brought seeds. Maybe next time the chili are big enough to show them on the stream. That would be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, healthy seedlings. I like that. Nice and spiny. Probably that Uwe Kahler hybrid cross with Cisala. No, it's another Uwe Kahler hybrid cross between Flying Saucer, Liskes Prachtstück, Gräsers Erfolg, Selbstbestäubung, and Cantora. Interesting. And the seedlings look good. Maybe a little bit too deep. What I said earlier with shade, you're losing a little bit of light by when you want to conserve a little bit of soil, want to save, and eventually it looks like it fell into the pot, So I recommend filling everything up. I need to remind myself all the time that I need to do that. Sometimes you just want to save soil, and when you're done, it looks terrible. Plant falls over, stuff like that. So put the whole pot full of soil if you can. Hey, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. Yeah, these are looking great actually, but it's a lot of work already. Look at how many I will have to report. I would love to sow out like a normal person, you know, like someone who, when I'm sowing out, it's just you don't consider all the work that comes with it. So next time I'm sowing out, I need to remind myself to not. It's like you're cooking noodles, you know, you put in the seeds are just tiny, and you throw in more and more and more, and eventually you have a whole container full of seedlings that you need to take care of. So yeah, same stance here, but apart from that, this looks okay. A little bit too deep, little moss. But when the seedlings look so healthy, I'm not changing. I'm not starting to rip around. I'm going through the seedling containers that we have, where we have planted cactus seeds on the channel. We have planted like 150 cactus seedling crosses, different kind of cacti, and yeah, I regularly control them on the stream, talk everything through, discuss the problems, discuss what we do wrong, that kind of stuff, you know. Later I want to clean some cactus seeds that I brought. Yeah, the classic indoor cactus grower winter stuff. This one looks like the other one, you know. Let's see, maybe no, it's Hunkesroro. Okay, but this looks like the hybrid EOS crossed with the Echinopsis. You can see there's a seam. Here the Winterer is just there aren't that many wild plants. You have a bottleneck situation, in my opinion, where the genetic health isn't just huge. There isn't such a huge gene pool with Hilde and a lot of the hybrids today are already hybrids of hybrids of hybrids, and that, you know, at some point that will get worse. So maybe they should breed in a wild one again to improve the genetic health. I'm sure by now they have found more populations. When Hilde in the beginning, when that genus was described, it was pretty new, and I think it's not that long ago, maybe in the, I don't know, 70s, maybe 60s, when I think Friedrich Ritter had discovered these, had described them as Hilde in honor of his sister, Hilde Winter. That was the sister of Friedrich Ritter. And yeah, he named that genus Hilde Winterer in honor of his sister. And today they are in Cactus, I believe. And they might very well fit there. But yeah, genetic health and all that is a problem for them. And I am not seeing the same problem, for example, with arboricola, with Sorensia arboricola, which is, in my opinion, super healthy. You know, you see them flowering, there are flowers everywhere. You know, they come out of every areole. They grow healthy. They are marching on, really strong growing plants. And with them, there's also not that many populations. And this is horrible. This is a nightmare fuel. The seedlings are so small that the moss really becomes a problem here. Within short time, the moss will overgrow the seedlings, and it has already happened. That it has overgrown. See here, in the front here. This is a seedling that's covered by moss. So these need to be transplanted. I'm not even ripping out anymore because the seedlings are also so small. These are actually too small to transplant. We couldn't transplant these into washed pumice, into mineral they would probably just disappear. They don't have a lot of humidity in the first place. Also, Humkes Roro hybrid. So, but they're green seedlings, so it makes sense to transplant them. Makes sense to believe in them. We have sown them out and believed in them enough to sow them out. So these need to be transplanted. I'm not giving up on them now. So yeah. And here, it's not many anymore, maybe 2 or 3. Okay. Yeah, it's cactus seedlings. Yeah, I a few days ago I posted a video where I just went a little bit too emotional about moss, and you know, when I post something like this, it's very tongue in cheek. You know, I can laugh about myself every now and then. I just get rant about something when I lose it. You know, and with moss, it's just, I don't know. It tends to change the soil in bad ways. This is a good example here. You know, this is one. I had to take these out of the bag, and you can this here, the white stuff and the yellow stuff there. This is dried up moss, and the whole soil isn't normal anymore. It's just a layer, like when you have mold over something, you know, or ice over something, and when that stuff dries up, it looks like there's humidity in the soil, but there isn't. If you press this, it's bone dry. And below, everything is super dry. And then you have a problem. Once you have that closed, firm layer of moss surrounding the seedlings and everything, you have one landscape there. And when you water it, you can't even get that soil loose anymore, because the moss has changed everything into, it's like bubble gum around the cactus seedlings. So yeah, and that's why I try to, at some point, remove it when it gets too much. In the beginning, when you have a tiny piece of moss somewhere, that is not a problem. But at some point, there are all these different species of moss, and not all grow equally fast or slow. Some of them just, I've seen them overtake the seedlings, and at some point you don't see the seedlings anymore. They don't get any more light, and at some point you will lose the seedlings. You wouldn't even know that they have been there. And that's why I'm always a little bit, I don't know, I try to keep an eye on it. It's not that I take it out every time, but there's good reasons to do it. I sometimes use that to disinfect seeds when I'm sowing out, but it's not really something that I'm using apart from that. Maybe when you've been sowing out, also when you've been sowing out and you have a fungal infection like a cobweb kind of mold, then you can use something like that, you know, 1.5% or 3% to clean house a little bit. But I usually try to even not use that, because you have to buy it all the time. I always had to buy low budget, you know, so a little bit. I every now and then I've sown out with disinfectants like that, but it's not really something that I use all the time. It can be great. It can definitely reduce problems with fungal infections. So I recommend, if you want to use that can make a lot of sense. For me, I just try to not let it get to that point. Yeah. And apart from that, at some point it wasn't available, so I started sowing out without it, and it worked. The more experience you have, the more you simplify things, I believe. Today I'm sowing out with sowing soil. In the beginning, I was one of the people who always pressed for mineral soil, and now I'm a little bit older, have seen a lot, and now I tend to be going more back to the basics, to having actually organic soil for seedlings, or more organic soil. To not use, I used to use a lot of plant extracts to just provide additional health, and all that was amazing. I used to, for example, I used to use equisetum extract. I think the plant's called horsetail. I use that because it has silica in the extract, and it's good for the root system. So I used a lot of that. Then I used garlic extract because it kind of keeps the insects away, it keeps the slugs away, because then the seedlings don't smell like food for them. So I used to buy a bottle of garlic extract every 6 months, and that stuff was expensive. It was like $40 or so, and it just added up and added up and added up. I was using what was it for flowering? Valerian flower extract, and that has been used by fruit producers, by these kinds of fruit breeders, and they always use that kind of extract to kind of make their plants a little bit more resistant to frost, and to make them a little bit like flower better, improve the flower. And today I have seen that this is apparently not proven, not well proven. So I also stopped with that. I just go back to the point where I'm using a fertilizer, a good fertilizer, a soil that isn't even cactus soil. Like this year I worked with that cemetery soil on the channel, and it did good for the large plants. It did great so far. And yeah, so everything is getting simpler the longer you do it. So yeah, this is the last one, I think, or the four last one. These are looking good. Very, very young. Some green, some reddish. And this is a Pseudolobivia hybrid, and a good one. So I'm glad that I have seedlings here. This could lead to a good flower. Maybe we can get them to a size where they are safe, because right now they are still too small. Can't take them out. They don't look really like they are, like they are growing fast. So this could take a while. And in the bag, they are safest for now. At this age, I just couldn't take them out. Like I said, in the beginning, I have shown how dry the soil was after only spraying it once a day. And that just shows you how often you have to spray. And again, when you do not know that, you sometimes aren't sure if the seedlings are suffering from fungal infections or just from the drought. And in many cases, it's the drought. Yeah, these are looking terrible. Actually, very small, very variegated. I see 1 or 2 green seedlings in a sea of reddish, whitish stuff. We would see how this will develop. Sometimes you have seedlings, they look like they are variegated, and eventually they manage to develop chlorophyll later. And that could be happening here. This is an intergeneric hybrid. And I want to definitely see them out. I want to grow them out. But for now, they look terrible. They look like they might not make it long term. Okay, I brought a new piece of paper to clean cactus seeds. I almost forgot it this time. I went back. That's why I'm a little bit late today. I instantly went back and brought a new piece of paper. This was the old one that I used to clean cactus seeds here over the last couple months maybe. So yeah, also very simple but useful when you're cleaning cactus seeds. So I brought a bunch of bags with cactus fruits, and I want to go through them now, because not every one of them can be cleaned without water. Some of them need water. Oh, this is it. This is necessary to clean. This is a hybrid called Leuchtfeuer. Hybrid by Rolf Autenried. And yeah, the flower is amazing, really good. And I have a plant that produced a pretty big fruit this year, and it's one of the hybrids that I always have like an eye on, because I know they can produce hybrid of the year. I've seen a few of them so far, and it just has something that is great for breeding. So in this case, we have viable seeds, and that is great. These I want to grow these. I want to grow these fast, so I'm cleaning them now. And I'm really happy already that some of the seeds look viable. Not all. There are some that are very small, but maybe we can get a bunch of seedlings here, and that would be great, because this is the type of cross. Sabine Oelze has had the hybrid of the year from a cross between Leuchtfeuer and Cantora Gelb. Very old school kind of cross, but it just produces great flowers. And Leuchtfeuer, let's talk about the parentage a little bit. Hybrid that involves a Gröner Candicans. Gröner Candicans is a Sörensia Candicans hybrid that was bought as seeds from the Köres, Cactus Köres wholesale. They are seed seller, German seed seller, and they had sold hybrid seeds of Sörensia Candicans at the time in the, I don't know, 70s, 80s, maybe, probably 80s. And yeah, these seeds produced interesting, unique kind of offspring with a hybrid body. They didn't know what the father was, since this was open pollinated from the greenhouse. I think Gerhard Köres had suspected that the father was a Pseudolobivia. And yeah, I had that in mind for a very long time, but I've seen the Gröner Candicans hybrids in my greenhouse, seen them grow. They have a high rib count, and a very high rib count, even for hybrids with Pseudolobivia. Sorry. So these hybrids had so many ribs, they look very much like hybrids that came from a Sörensia, something like Sörensia bruchi, actually. The flowers are red, and that is what, in my opinion, also points towards Sörensia bruchi, clearly. I had some of these Gröner hybrids, and they had, like, I don't know, 20 ribs or so, 25. That the rib count was obscene, and it makes for a very unique kind of plant. They look good, and the flower was very simple, just reddish, orange, nothing great for modern standards. This is an old school hybrid from the beginning, but all the old school breeders use them in crosses because they are great as genetic bridges in between different genera. It allows to make hybrid crosses that would not work otherwise. So that Leuchtfeuer hybrid involves a Gröner Candicans and a Sörensia crassicaulis, Lobivia crassicaulis. They belong to Grandiflora in a wider sense, I believe. The flowers are red. Flowers look like Huasha, Sörensia Huasha flowers, but you have them on a tiny plant. That is like Crassicaulis, Sörensia crassicaulis used to be even in Trichocereus, a genus for columnar cacti. But if you see the plant, it's not a Trichocereus. It's a Lobivia kind of plant. Lobivia echinopsis. Yeah, and that one is involved. And I believe like the Rolf Autenried hybrid Asterix, I'm not sure. I believe that one was involved too. So you have a multi-hybrid with different kind of parents. It's a really interesting genetic constellation. The seedlings are very spiny, have a unique darkish kind of spine color. From coming from Sörensia crassicaulis, in my opinion. And yeah, if you pair that with the right father, with the right pollen, like Cantora Gelb, such a old school simple hybrid, but the flowers are huge. And no matter what you do with it, it usually improves the size of the flower. So yeah, I just look for my little thing that I use to clean the seeds. I'm not sure where I put it, but I need to look for it later. I'm not finding it now. So I would try to work without, but I usually need it because it's good when you accidentally sort out seeds that... Oh, I found it. Here it is. Okay. So I have this. I usually put this below when I'm cleaning seeds, so I don't accidentally sort out viable seeds. So this allows you to get rid of the dust, get rid of the unviable seeds, but you still have a little kind of safeguard where you can look and see, there was a viable seed that I accidentally threw in the wind. So now we will clean these to a point where we can sow them out. I want these in the soil very fast. I want to grow these because the viability could be very short. Could be that it's already too late even. I'm sorry. So yeah, not many, like the seeds are very small. I really hope that they are viable. I believe some of them are, but the closer I look, the more worried I get from the small size of the seed. Would really be a shame to have a huge fruit that is full, but every seed corn is flat, unviable. But you also need to consider Sörensia crassicaulis, Lobivia crassicaulis, whatever. The seed size might be very small. So I need to be more careful what to sort out here. I just realized that, sometimes you look at the seeds and you instantly get that feeling that they belong to Sörensia, and this we've been discussing Leuchtfeuer and the Gröner Candicans, and the seed size of Sörensia, they are smaller. They are smaller than some of the more columnar cacti like Trichocereus. They have a little bit bigger seeds, and these compared to that are much smaller. So I can't really treat them with the same standard. So I might have to be more careful here. Maybe I have to even, if I would wash these in a sieve, they might actually wash through the cracks because they are so small. Do you get excited when you grow crested cactus? Sometimes. I had a lot of like crested seedlings, and then suddenly you have mealybug on them, something like that. I feel like a crest is very vulnerable to stuff like to almost everything. They are a very specific type of growth, and something about them makes them ideal hosts for mealybug. So in the past, when I didn't have the great skills to combat that, I sometimes lost crests, so I moved a little away from them, and also because a lot of them didn't flower, or because I felt they wouldn't flower. But now the older I get, the more I appreciate them again. So in the last 2-3 years, I've been growing a few of them again, a few crested plants, and I'm usually happy to see them. But I don't use a lot of space for that. It's not something that plays a huge part for me. I have that big TPM or whatever, that TPC kind of plant, and I hope that one will be flowering one day. I really try to, when I'm growing a plant, I really want it to flower. And my hope is that maybe we can get these crests to flower too. But in order to do that long term, I need to spray them a little bit more. I feel like the crests are just more sensitive to stuff like mealybug. This year I already sprayed a bunch of crests because they were the worst of all the plants in the greenhouse. They had the worst problem with that, and I believe it's something about the way that they grow. They grow these little tunnels, like, you know, like a crest, you know, and that allows them to live in these tunnels, and it's exactly the thing that they love and thrive in. So you have to have a good way to keep them healthy long term. And earlier in my life I didn't have that. Today I have it, but it took a while. In summer we would spray them. We would spray a bunch of crests with neem oil, something like that, because I saw a problem. You know, every year I'm treating them, then I get it under control, and then they can come back again. It is something that that comes with the mild winters that we have now. Earlier, every year in winter, the plants had real bad frost and that kind of stuff. They usually took the mealybug populations out too, but now we have mild winters, and that is good for them, makes it easy. So yeah, this summer I want to spray with neem oil, and I want to spray with, maybe we're trying alcohol, just to have that kind of a, like, you know, like a medical kind of product that we can spray, just to see if it works against the mealybug. I was born in Germany. I'm a born Saarländer. That is something like in between, like a borderland kind of area in between Germany and France, and it has a little bit of both. It's a great place to live. A lot of history in the area, a lot of old battlefields, that kind of stuff. And yeah, heavily influenced from both countries. So I don't really see myself as I see myself rather as a Saarländer, born Saarländer, than a German. It's a really beautiful area. And climate wise, pretty cold winters, lots of rain, that kind of stuff. I always wanted, when I was young, I always wanted to grow cacti in that climate, and it takes a while until you have the experience to make it happen, to make it work. Had to learn a lot. You have to learn how to do things in your climate, and that took a while. I love south of France is really beautiful, great place. I love that. I have family that is living in France, so yeah, I'm really, like, I grew up in between. Okay. Yeah, I feel like there's so much dust in this one. I would love to wash it under running water, under a sieve. That would probably be better. But doesn't really look like these seeds are big enough to not run through the cracks. I will have to try and see if I find a sieve that is even finer than what I have. And I already felt like I had the finest one that I could get. So I will look into that. But I'm sure there must be something for this kind of seed size. I stopped washing Sörensia seeds very often. They have a tiny fruit. and the seeds are so small that I constantly, when I had them in the sieve, I realized that they were washing away below, that they were also washing through the cracks. And yeah, since then I dry them on a piece of paper. I really don't risk putting them in a sieve anymore. So they could be viable despite the small size. That is actually the best thing right now that I'm taking from this small seed size. I was a little bit surprised in the beginning when I saw that, but when you think about it, it makes sense, you know. If a Gröner Candicans is involved, and by the way, they are called after a person called Professor Gröner. That is the person who bought them, who had distributed them at the time. So the name is just a reference to the person who made it possible that they were grown. Back at the time, there weren't really many hybrids around, and they really did a lot to share the good stuff that they had. In the beginning, this whole kind of niche, like this breeding niche, cactus breeding niche, that the best that they had at the time were classic Echinopsis hybrids with like the Bob Schick hybrids, or maybe even older, like stuff that's older, just one colored Echinopsis flowers sometimes. A lot of work has been done since that. A lot of progress has happened. But these are really some of the old school, the pillars of this that this whole thing is standing on. Even today, when you see hybrids by Uwe Kahle, and Uwe Kahle is a very modern kind of breeder, a lot of interesting new hybrids, and yeah, you can really see that it's going into a certain direction. And they have that Gröner Candicans often involved as a genetic bridge to get in to make a cross work that would otherwise not work. They are just genera that are in between one and the other. Like, for example, I always consider Sörensia to be an intermediate between Lobivia and Echinopsis, or Lobivia and Trichocereus, you know? And some of these plants can be useful because some Lobivia and some Trichocereus do not cross. They have substantial problems in just compatibility. Sometimes there's just not that. Sometimes the flower tube has the wrong shape. That means the pollen isn't built to pollinate whatever ovum that's down there, or it's just there's the pH level of the stigma isn't right for the pollen, or the other way around, the pH level of the pollen isn't right for the stigma. So very often that fails, that pollination attempt. So it can make sense to use these intergeneric bridges to bring in something else. And then you have a hybrid that has a little bit of both. And for long term, you can make crosses with both. That is very valuable. If you know how to use it, this can be incredibly valuable. And I want to sow all of these out. Maybe I will put a few aside. I have a few like friends and all that also might want to grow them. But apart from that, I want to sow a lot of these out. This could be a great hybrid. I also have a bunch of the Gröner Candicans hybrids. I usually show them on the channel. Last season I had one, and it's a massive plant. It's a plant like this, you know. When I have to, I sometimes can't even lift it up because it's so heavy, and a very fiercely spiny plant, and the flower is not great. relatively small for these days, and it has like pinkish reddish, something like that, with a like a white flower with a pink eye, something like that. So the flower isn't great, but it still makes sense to make crosses with it, because then you can maybe use a lobivia as a father, and that kind of father on a Trichocereus would often fail. So I still made a hybrid cross with it this year, and I had a fruit from it. Could really go into, I was trying to go into a similar direction as Leuchtfeuer, as this hybrid where these seeds came from. Trying to maybe recreate the original hybrid, or trying to maybe do it better. Who knows? So yeah, from that hybrid, we also have a fruit this year. I'm not sure if I have space for them, but I will definitely, if I don't, I will definitely send some seeds around to keep them from disappearing, because there are fewer and fewer of these original Gröner hybrids. Overall, I had 5, I guess. 1 I lost at some point when I was just not capable, generally incapable. And yeah, the others I still have. But I really regret that I lost that one. That was what was also interesting. I think it was the original Gröner Orange. I lost that one, and that really bothered me long term. Every now and then you lose a plant, and it really bothers to ruffle your feathers. That's how it was with me, with that one. Okay. Yeah, I keep trying to clean this up, but it's really difficult because the seeds are so small that you sometimes can't even keep them from the unviable ones that are also mixed in between, and from the organic stuff that's mixed in between here. I really want to sow these out until next time we're sowing out. These will be among them. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing my best. Eventually these will be clean, but I would prefer cleaning this with a sieve under running water. I will keep an eye on, like, I would check stuff like on eBay. Maybe I can get a fine sieve, one that is so fine that it's fine enough for these, that these don't fall through. The thing that really stands out is how small the seeds are here. It is hard to show the size, to compare the size in the stream, because the camera doesn't really show the shape that well. But they're among the smallest that I've had here. But they are also much smaller. There were times when I've been sowing out these little miniature cacti, dwarf kind of cacti. I don't recall what kind of a genera it was, but they are barely visible in the beginning. So the seeds look like spores almost. There are some cacti that you need to keep in humidity for much longer because they are so small. We'll see how fast these will grow. If they come up, if the seeds are viable, it will be interesting to see how fast these will grow. It could be that they take forever. I'm constantly torn between just trying to judge the viability of these seeds. They actually look viable, but then when I feel them, they just feel flat. and I hate that feeling, because it often indicates that there's nothing in there, no life. So we will try it out. We will sow these out next time, tomorrow. I will prepare sowing soil. I'm not sure if I have enough containers, but I will try to find some. Tea strainer. I'm using something like this, like a tea strainer, but it is basically the same size of that the sieve has too. I would try it out. I would have a look at it again, but I believe the size of the little holes in the sieve, they are roughly the same. So I wasn't considering it as an option. These here, I believe the whole size on these sieves needs to be a barely visible hole. Needs to be very fine. I will have a look later. I've been always using the same kind of kitchen sieve, and there are very few plants that don't fit for it. But Cerenzia, the worst was when I tried to wash the seeds of Cerenzia. What was it? Cerenzia crassicaulis. Crassicaulis always, I'm always happy when I have seeds, and then I try to wash it and realize how small the seeds are. Cerenzia formosa. A lot of these kind of plants. By now I have it in mind, I have it. I know that when I have a fruit in hand that is a Cerenzia fruit, I need to be more careful. Otherwise, I might be scraping the seeds from the bottom of the sink, and that has happened very often. You see them like swim away, and then what I usually do is get desperate, get a piece of kitchen paper and press it firmly to close the running water, and then when the water slowly sinks in, then the seeds are still there. But it's not a good way, because you could also have seeds from other cacti in the sink, and then you have a mess. You have a seed mix. But every now and then, when I really forget how small the seeds are here, then I'm panically scraping them while the water's running through, just trying to save them. And it happens again every year. Usually the first time you're cleaning 10 fruit of a columnar cactus or something like that, and the 11th one you want to clean the same way, but then you notice it's a totally different kind of plant, totally different kind of seed size. We're almost done with the cleaning here. Almost to the point where we can sow them out. And I'm really looking forward to these. When I saw the fruit grow this year in summer, last year, 2025, I was really happy to see that fruit. Make me proud, little fruit. Sometimes you see, you make a cross that you absolutely wanted to make, and you have that good feeling about it. That's how I'm feeling about these. So I hope they don't disappoint. Would be hilarious if, like, in 3 years or in 4 years, I will show these and they have the ugliest flower ever known to man. Can also happen. Sometimes you have these grand ideas for a hybrid cross, and when you see the outcome, it fails in every aspect. That happens very often. But at the same time, you also have the positive surprises. And also one thing that stuck with me the longer I'm doing this, I was positively surprised by how much amazing kind of hybrid stuff you can get done by just using certain kind of classic botanical species or plants that when you look at them alone, you wouldn't think that something great comes from them. You know, like you could get an amazing hybrid with Echinopsis oxygona. You could get an amazing hybrid with the most basic Echinopsis that exists, simply because with the right parent, with the right partner, the outcome is something completely different. You can have that kind of unique combination. Like, let's say you combine it with a Hildewinterer, so you have a Hildewinterer on one side and that classic kind of Echinopsis oxygona on the other side, and that can produce a Hildewinterer hybrid that has a totally different kind of flower shape. That kind of stuff, you know. You sometimes read the parents of a cross and you think, oh my God, what a trash. And then you see it in front of you and it's amazing. Like that. And I had that with hybrids by other breeders where I looked at the list and thought, I wouldn't do that. And then you see the outcome and you feel like a fool, you know. But and you also have it in the other way too. I really think you need to make the crosses to really know how they will come out. We always think we know, we can predict how a cross will come out, and very often that works. But also you really don't follow how often it didn't work. You always have that one time in your head. Okay, think they are clean enough to be sown out sometime soon. I want to sow these out tomorrow. So I will try to find new containers to sow out. I haven't bought new ones yet, but I will do it. I just hate to spend money when you're really having to struggle financially sometimes, like it's not so bad, but I really know the worth of money now. So I know I have to buy something, but I wait way too long. You know, I just, the idea to spend something right now is I hate that idea. But we need new square pots and that kind of stuff. So for the next time I will bring a few that I still have. Like maybe I will disinfect some that have failed from the previous sowing out. And for the next time then, when I need new ones, I have bought them. Okay. So this is Leuchtfeuer. And I pollinated that with Bamboy, I believe. That could be an amazing hybrid cross. I didn't say that because I had forgotten. I was just thinking about what I used, and I pollinated that with Bamboy. So yeah, I believe it was Bamboy, but I filmed the video so I can go back and look at it, and it's a great combination. If you consider what you got from Leuchtfeuer Cantora, the thought to bring in Bamboy instead of Cantora, in my opinion, it would probably improve the outcome even more. Would probably be like improve an already great outcome. Leuchtfeuer. Okay. Looking forward sowing these out. That would be great. Here's the Hildewinter fruit. And they are tiny compared to that. Need a little trash can here. Okay, I will clean the Hildewinterer fruit now. And then I will probably end the stream. But for now, we're doing this. Can you keep the pollen 1 year or less? It depends how you store it. If you just collect pollen fresh in summer, let's say you collect the pollen in June, and you collect it with a paper bag. I always collect pollen, or I try to collect pollen with little paper bags, because they are great at letting humidity get out, and you can still keep them in the freezer, but without having the risk that there's humidity collecting in the bag. So if you have it in, let's say you have it in a paper bag, and it's just a completely dry pollen, just the real pollen dust, then you can freeze it, for example. Put it in a freezer. In these paper bags, I usually have a big bag of different kind of types of pollen, all in different kind of paper bags, and I freeze it in the freezer completely dry. The pollen needs to be completely dry. Sometimes you can put in a drying agent like silica gel. That kind of stuff works, but there are other ways. I've seen people like put in rice, dry rice. I'm not sure if it works, but I've seen it done. And there are other chemicals that you can use as a drying agent. And yeah, then you can keep the pollen for years. If it is correctly frozen, you should be able to take it out 2 years later and make a hybrid cross with it. It doesn't always work like that because the world isn't perfect, you know. You have these real life conditions. Sometimes you have a leaky fridge, a leaky freezer that, you know, you take stuff out, it dries up, then you put it back in, it unfreezes, you use it, then you put it back in. That kind of stuff reduces the viability. But if you store the pollen right, it should be viable for years. And the same should be true for cactus seeds. The big seed banks, they are freezing seeds, you know, they are freezing seeds also in a very dry state. Usually, I think they freeze in nitrogen if I am right, but I'm not sure. But I wouldn't do that, you know. I believe it isn't so easy, and it might be dangerous. So maybe better get a safer drying agent like silica gel. And yeah, I have a bunch of seeds that I have frozen 10 years ago, and I recently tried them. They're viable. It doesn't work all the time. Some seeds just lose viability fast. But freezing, if you don't know, like if you really wanna have pollen all the time, like sometimes you have the same plants, they are flowering always at the same time every year, and that kind of limits you to make hybrid crosses that you just can't make because at that time you don't have the pollen available. And then you can freeze the pollen, so you can already start start the season with a plant, to use that plant as a fodder that would otherwise just flower maybe in August. So yeah, freezing pollen is a great way. I recommend it. But I also prefer to work with fresh pollen if I can. I very often collect pollen. I have an obscene amount of pollen that I froze. Just flower pollen, cactus flower pollen, nothing else. But I mostly use fresh ones. You know, it's like you have all that available if you need it, but most of the time you are not even, it's not a thing. But I like the idea that it's there, that if I really want to make that one particular cross at a very particular time, I can do it. So yeah, try it out if you need help. I'm happy to help. We will do a video on that the next time there's flowers again. Next time I can collect pollen again. We will do the whole video just collecting pollen, putting it in these paper bags, writing the name on it, and then we will freeze it, take it out maybe the next year, and then we'll see if it's still viable. So it's just the new season, it's just a few months away. And at the very beginning, I will almost certainly take out some of the pollen from the freezer from last season. And that will tell us how the viability is. Okay, yeah, so this is Hilde Winterer here, and it's a tiny fruit, really tiny. overall, I think we have maybe 5 seeds. The flowers, like the fruit and flower size of Hilde is small anyways, like really small. So even a healthy fruit will not hold that many seeds. Check it out. This is just all we got from one fruit. And these might not even be viable. Here, this one of them I can take out because it's just, I don't know, just a little beginning of what was supposed to become a seed, but it never fully developed. Okay, so now we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 seeds. And it's more than I thought. I actually, when I saw these, I thought this is 3 seeds or 4. So we will try to sow this kind of stuff out. Hilde, I like the flower. I hate the body. The body of Hilde, they are like a pool noodle. It's blocking 2 meters in the greenhouse. They are lying on the side. You need to really hang them in a hanging basket pot to really have them out of the way. Otherwise, the Hilde will always, like a snake in the greenhouse, be on some other plant. So I try to improve the body, try to get something that doesn't bother me anymore. And so far, most of the Hilde, they are very dominant in regards to the body. A lot of the Hilde hybrids, they just follow the Hilde body again, and often also the flower. So far, I'm not happy with the outcome. We will see how it goes long term. I made a lot of Hilde crosses where I have no idea what happened to them, where I gave someone seeds. Maybe something, maybe one of them came out good. We will see. Okay. Well, I will sow these out next time too. Okay, guys. I think this is enough. Was great that you guys spent time with me. I love that. I appreciate that. So thank you, everyone. I can only repeat it every time. I feel honored that so many people spend their day with me or spend their time with me, stay up, or do it early in the morning before work. I appreciate it. And we will have a great year. We will build something here. I can tell you I'm going into this season. I'm burning for the new season. I wanna prove something, I've come a long way with this channel, and I've gone through insane depths, really bad times. And I have that fire in me like never before to film the best season so far. So yeah. This is when we're going into summer, this is going to be really taking off. So thank you for being here now in the time when it's not even the flowers are here, because right now we're laying the groundwork for the next 5 years. Plants that we're growing here, they will be with us for the next 4 or 5 years. And it's great that you are here with me. Okay, thank you. I will be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. I hope you have the time of your life. Okay, thank you. Until tomorrow.